welcome to a new episode of Journey of a Christian Writer. My name is ML Ball. I'm a Christian and women's fiction author, and in this episode I'm going to go over 4 main ingredients of realistic characters. I'm going to briefly go over these ingredients, being that most of us writers are already familiar with them. So I'm just going to briefly go over them, but if you're interested in finding out more details of how I talk about these different ingredients, you can read the blog post from my Brainstorm blog that I'm going to have linked below. But anyways, let's get into the video. Physical attributes and appearance are pretty much the main way that writers describe characters in stories. But there are 4 main ingredients that really make characters who they are. And this includes character emotions, your character motivation, character backstory, and personality. The first that I'm going to go over is character emotions. Character emotions allow your readers to be able to connect with your characters on an emotional level and give them a reason to actually care about your characters, because you really want to be able to have your readers be able to connect with your characters in a story. I think that is extremely important in order to keep readers engaged within your stories. But there are different types of ways that you can really bring your character's emotions to life. The first is by using your character body language or action beats. These are like the movements, and different actions and things that take place while characters are speaking in the story. An example of this of an action beat is his head ignited in flames, for example. It just makes the characters come more to life when you add in those types of details. Other ways that you can bring your characters' emotions to life is by using internal dialogue or their thoughts in the story. For example, you could have John carefully open the door and then in italics have, "Oh, I hope I don't wake anyone," for example, just to show that his thoughts is not actual dialogue within the story. Another way that you can show your character's emotions is by diction or word choice. This one I think is a really clever way of showing your character's emotions, because you can show their accents, for example, if they use slang, if they have different types of worldviews from other characters and things like that. Is good ways that you can bring your character's emotions to life as well. So all of these is just some simple ways that you can bring your character's emotions to life on the page. The next ingredient that I'm going to go over is character motivation. Character motivation is the psychological explanation for why characters do what they do. Like a compass, it directs your characters' needs and wants and their overall goals within the story. And it also gives your characters purpose to be in the story. That is why character motivation is extremely important for stories, and I think it's probably the one that many beginner writers don't really consider too much. That's why some have things going on in their stories, have characters doing things, but they don't have a purpose behind why their characters are doing certain things in the story. but that is extremely important because that's what helps to structure one story when they actually have purpose behind their characters' actions in the story. That's something that I didn't always have in my stories. I know when I first started, was actually having purpose behind my characters doing different things. But having character motivation is extremely important for realistic characters. It may even be the most important ingredient for characters is character motivation, because it also helps to show another element called character development, or the transformation of characters in the story during the course of the story, how they actually change based on their experiences. So that is pretty much what the second ingredient of character emotion is. The next one that I'm going to go over, the third element, is character backstory. Character backstory is the past histories of the characters before the present story actually begins. So this could be a number of different things: past events from characters' childhoods, for example, or past traumas, experiences in war, for example, repressed memories or other devastations within their past is what character backstory is. Now, depending on the story, it may not necessarily be necessary to have backstory in your story, but it is a good element to use for realistic characters. But if you are going to use it, it's best not to use too much of it and to just use it very briefly within your story, which is why I describe it as just a pinch of backstory. A good way to show backstory is by actually using flashbacks in your story. That way you don't have a whole large chunk of backstory. You can just spread it out, within the story, and just give a little bit of backstory at a time instead of having large, long passages of backstory that will probably just bore some of your readers. But that using flashbacks is a good way to show backstory in a story. One good example I think that did this is the 1997 film Miracle in the Woods, starring Della Reese. In the story, she's an elderly lady who lives in this cabin-like house in the woods, and by a lot of people in town, she's seen as this crazy, senile type of old elderly lady. But really, when you learn about her backstory in her younger years, you understand why she's the way she is in the present time story, and why she thinks that the white teenage girl Gina in the story is her old friend from her past, which ends up turning out to be Gina's great-grandmother. I'm going to have that film linked below as well if you're interested in seeing it. It's a pretty good film, I think. And it teaches a valuable lesson, about what's really most important in life and stuff. And like the true meaning of family. But that is just an example of backstory. And the final ingredient that I'm going to go over is for personality. Personality is also important when it comes to realistic characters, because that's what can help distinguish your characters from one another and show their differences and how they behave and act when experiencing different emotions, because that is something that I think not every writer thinks about when it comes to personality for characters, is that not only can you show characters differences in personality just based on like whether they're more outgoing or not, stuff like that, but you can also show your characters differences and distinguish how they experience different emotions. For example, a character who is angry may grit their teeth or something, while another character may actually tear up and cry, because that's pretty much how we are in real life. Us humans, we experience emotions differently as well, and our characters can do that too. So that's something that I thought of, is how writers can actually show the differences of how their characters experience happiness or anger or sadness in stories. So that's something that you can keep in mind when it comes to creating your characters in your stories. But that is pretty much all that I have for this video. By using these 4 main ingredients, they can help you to create realistic characters that your readers will thoroughly enjoy in your books. That's all I have for this video, and thank you for watching. For more detailed information on the subject of this video and other writing tips, tricks, and out-of-the-box ideas, you can visit my Eartha website and check out my writing blog, The Brainstorm, under the Writing Blog button of my menu navigation. Just go to mlbullbooks.com and you'll see it there. I hope you enjoyed this latest video, and thank you